we were never, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that we were never meant to activate the pathways of sugar, fat, and salt at the same time. And that's what Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer called the pleasure trap. If you look in nature, with the exception of breast milk, which is only for a short period of time for the infant, there is not a single food in nature that has sugar, fat, and salt in the same package. There's not even one that has sugar and fat, or sugar and salt, or fat and salt, unless we added to it, right? And so what happens is that's what processed food is. That's what restaurant food is. It's a hyper palatable combination, high in sugar, fat, and salt. And together, it's like all the bells and whistles go off in the brain. Like, avocado is a whole natural food, and, it tastes pretty good, but most people put salt on it, right? When they're making guacamole. So they're adding, sugar, salt with fat. French fries, salt with fat. Desserts are generally sugar with fat, or there's usually all three of them. I call that the evil trinity, because usually they're found in conjunction with each other. And when that happens, people can't stop eating them together. So I would say for most people, it depends on how bad a person's diet was, because the longest I saw it take for somebody for the food, this person was the most stubborn client ever and had one of the worst diets. She didn't start liking the food until about the third month. It really took her that long. But I would say for most people, if they're willing to eat healthy foods like fruits and vegetables, I would say the big suffering is just going to be the first week. And then maybe the first month, there's going to be some adjusting, but most people do pretty good after that,
Yeah. And then this is why Alan Goldhammer says we live in a world designed to make us fat, sick, and miserable. It's because really the game is stacked against us, because companies go out of their way to make us crave what they have to offer. And it's almost like we have to do our own homework.
You're absolutely right. And there was 2 wonderful books, actually 3 now, written about that. One is called The End of Overeating by Dr. David Kessler, the former head of the FDA when Bill Clinton was president, and 2 books by Michael Moss, who's an investigative journalist and Pulitzer Prize winning author. One is called Sugar, Fat, and Salt, How the Food Giants Hooked Us, and one is called Hooked. And when I read those books, I was just so mad that they were trying to manipulate my brain chemistry for profit, that it had nothing to do with health or weight. I'm like, I am not putting money in these people's pockets. That's it. They're not getting my money, because they knew what they were doing. And the thing is it is so, when you talk to one of my favorite doctors, Dr. Frank Sabatino, who's really, I think, an addiction specialist, he talks about how food addiction is the only addiction we can do in broad daylight in front of everybody, at our desk at work, at our desk at school. If you're a heroin addict or a cocaine addict or even an alcoholic, I mean, yeah, you can drink in public, but you probably can't really, to the degree you can with food, do it in public. But it's actually encouraged, to do that. And because food is so, junk food is so socially acceptable, readily available, and easily affordable, and because everybody else is doing it, it must be okay. And it's so people that are trying to be healthy in a world designed to make us fat, sick, and miserable, we're considered, there's orthorexic, you're too thin, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, it's so funny to me. When I think about how when I was obese, and I even used to smoke, I'm so embarrassed to say, this was a long time ago, thank God. I was a respiratory therapist and asthmatic, and it shows how powerful addiction is. It wasn't for too many years, thankfully. I was doing it to try to keep my weight down. And nobody said anything to me if I was eating, McDonald's or smoking. People didn't say a word. But the minute I started getting lean and healthy and eating kale, it's like everybody came out of the cupboard as a nutritionist, like, oh, kale's high in oxalates, beans have lectins. It's like these sound bites are so ridiculous. You got to be really careful where you get your information from. And I trust the doctors at True North.
Right.